Hello, everybody. This is Pinklin Thomas, and you're listening to the Ringside Boxing Show.
Live from Monterey on California's beautiful Central Coast, this is the Ringside Boxing Show. I'm Dennis Taylor, welcoming you to join me and my expert analysts, Travis Hartman, Rizwaan Zahid, and John J. Raspanti, today and every week for the hottest, sweatiest show on the West Coast. And now, from Studio 1A, it's the Ringside Boxing Show. Welcome to the Ringside Boxing Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. Hope you all had a good Thanksgiving. I'm Dennis Taylor, and we got another really interesting show coming at you again today. In just a little while, John Raspanti and I are going to be interviewing a slow-talking Texan who sort of surprised himself back in 1984 when he knocked out Johnny Bumpus to win the WBA Super Lightweight Championship in Buffalo, New York. Gene Mad Dog Hatcher is a very colorful guy whose 14-year, 39-bout career included fights with Superman Davis, Lloyd Hunnigan, Frankie Warren, Alfredo Escalera, Ubaldo Sacco, and several other rugged guys. John and I recorded this interview with the Mad Dog a couple days ago, and it's a whole lot of fun, so stay tuned with us with that. Paul McLaughlin, our British correspondent, is back this week to catch us up on some happenings over there in the United Kingdom. He's got a little interview with Tyson Fury for us. And we'll start off, as we do every week, with a conversation with our expert analyst. Travis Hartman is a professional boxer, trainer, and promoter from Osborne, Missouri, now living and training in Orlando, Florida. Rizwaan Zahid is a boxing journalist from Toronto. John J. Raspanti is chief lead writer for MaxBoxing.com and Doghouse Boxing. And he's also the author of a brand new book that you can find right now on Amazon. It's called Blood on My Notebook, Chronicles from the World of Professional Boxing. And John and I also are co-authors of Intimate Warfare, The True Story of the Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward Boxing Trilogy, an Amazon bestseller. So, guys, we promised this to our listeners last week. There's a much-anticipated rematch coming up Saturday between Anthony Joshua and Andy Ruiz Jr. for 4 heavyweight title belts that Ruiz took away from Joshua with a 7th-round knockout back in June. That one kind of shocked the boxing world. We've all been reading the opinions of boxers and trainers and managers and promoters and boxing oracles and fans for months about why it happened and what's going to happen in the rematch. And those opinions, from what I've noticed, are pretty evenly divided. Nobody seems to know. So, John, lead off for us this week. Who do you like in Joshua-Ruiz 2 and why?
Yeah, this is a tough one because there's a million intangibles, and I've been thinking about it a lot because I got to write an article for Max Boxing about it and do a breakdown. And we also got Iceman John Scully who's going to be doing a breakdown, so I'm kind of curious what he thinks. But I have a feeling that, and that's where it's come to because, again, let me go back to the intangibles. When you lose to somebody like Joshua did so dramatically, I don't care. It's like last week we were talking about. I don't care. That's still in his memory. It was too soon. It was in June at 6 months. It's hard to recover. I was one of the people that thought that he should have a fight before he fought Ruiz again, and that's also very debatable. I just thought that it would help him mentally if he knocked somebody out. Maybe it wouldn't, but that was just my thinking. I'm just where I land on this, Dennis, is. My feelings are telling me that Joshua is going to win, and I'll tell you why. And it's really dependent on how he fights. If he stays long and he boxes more, I think he can outbox Ruiz from the outside a little bit and not get clipped from those counter shots. If he gets closer, Ruiz will get him again. I think he'll hit him again and hurt him again. Joshua's chin, even though it was temple shots that got him in the first fight, is always going to be suspect as far as I'm concerned. So it's going to come down to how Joshua fights. And now we talk about the importance of the fight. It's hugely important for Joshua to win this fight. Hugely. He has to win this fight. If he loses again, he's not done. But in a sense he is. Because he lose 2 in a row, and then what? He's going to make, from what I read, $80 million for this rematch. $80 million he's going to make.
Mm-hmm.
So if he loses, he certainly will have a boatload of money. But as I said, I give Joshua the edge based on how he fights this fight and the importance of it. Now, as far as Ruiz goes, it's also very important to him too. And I'm thinking, in a way, as a person, I can relate to Ruiz because he wants to prove that the first fight wasn't a fluke. So he's also motivated. And that's, again, why it makes the fight so interesting, is you've got two guys motivated, in a sense, for different reasons. But I just, like I said, I'll go back to that. I just have a feeling that Joshua is going to find a way to win a decision. That's what I'm thinking. If it's a stoppage, which I doubt, it could come later. But again, I could be all wet here. They might have a plan of trying to get to Ruiz early. He did knock Ruiz down in the first fight. But as we've talked about, the right hand that Joshua hit Ruiz with after he got up was a hellacious shot, and he took it. And then he countered and hurt Joshua. So, grudgingly, I'm going to go with Joshua. I'm giving him the edge. But I certainly will not be surprised at all if Ruiz knocks him out again. I won't be surprised if the fight goes a totally different way because, what was it? Tyson said you have a great plan until somebody hits you, and then it all goes crazy. Mm-hmm. So what happens in there Saturday is going to be it's going to be a nail biter. As far, I mean, I'm really anxious to see it just because there are so many ways it can go. But I'll go with my gut and say Joshua will win.
Well, Riz, the bigger gut belongs to Ruiz. What kind of baggage is? Yeah, what kind of baggage is Joshua carrying into this fight, having been knocked out by this guy in the first? And who are you picking?
You know, it's hard to say because, like John alluded to, it really just depends on how Joshua comes out. And, you know, a lot of people would have preferred he took another fight in between. It's rare, I think, that we see kind of a Kovalev-Alvarez situation where, you know, a guy loses by knockout and comes back and looks comfortable. But I think the difference with that one was clearly Kovalev was winning pretty much every minute of that fight up until he got knocked out. Where Joshua, I mean, I wasn't sure he was winning the first two rounds. So it's not just intangible that Joshua got knocked out. It goes well beyond that. There's a skill factor here, right? No one ever thought that even in the rematch with Kovalev and Alvarez that Kovalev was going to be outskilled. We can see Joshua being outskilled. Why? So we can see him, you know, we could theoretically see him losing more ways than once, if that makes sense, because he's shown, what's the word I'm looking for, like almost vulnerabilities. And that's not what you want, because, you know, a guy who's, you know, that powerful and that raw of an athlete, you know, it's just like Wilder. There's so many flaws in both their games. It's just their strengths are just that great that they've been able to hide some of their flaws. But, I mean, we saw in the first fight that Ruiz was able to take Joshua's finishing shots. You know, he scored the knockdown, and he had him hurt. And you with that right hand, like that right hand just knocks out pretty much every heavyweight on the planet. And Joshua just wasn't able to finish. So I've seen, you know, usually when we see immediate rematches, it goes two ways. The guys who lose those immediate rematches, you see that those guys tend to be the one who are very good and almost great, but not Ali great, right? When Ali has a rematch with the guy, he wins, and that's that, right? Where we've seen guys like Shane Mosley is not a good rematch guy, right? He lost to Forrest, lost to Winky Wright, won a immediate rematch with both, did better, but still lost. And the difference with Joshua here is, I mean, when it comes to, I mean, if this fight goes 12 rounds, who has the better stamina? Who has the better conditioning? Who are you thinking has a advantage in the later rounds? For me, I would say it's Ruiz because he has the better skill set. For Joshua, I don't know, you know, Joshua showed power in round 11 against a guy like Klitschko, but does he need a knockout later, I believe, in the fight compared to Ruiz, I think, to win a fight. So it's looking at the odds. I'm not surprised that Joshua's the favorite again. I think he should be the favorite again because, like you guys mentioned, I mean, conceivably he could have won. He could have finished Ruiz in round 3, and we never would have talked about this. And there's also some debate. You land a tempo shot. I don't care who you are as a fighter, no matter how good your chin is and how tough you are. When your equilibrium's gone, you're just walking around on one leg almost, right? So I think this is in some ways a trap fight. I think it's going to be interesting to monitor the hometown advantage if there is one, because we really don't know what the crowd's going to be like here. I'm going to say it's probably going to be mostly British, but I'm not sure. So it's hard to decipher what impact that's going to have. We thought that Joshua in New York was theoretically going to have the advantage. It didn't work out that way either. So I'm going to say Ruiz, and I'm only going to say Ruiz just because I think he has the better skill set, and I think he's also realizing that there's still no pressure on him. There's more pressure on Joshua than ever. I mean, Joshua is, we've seen tons of fighters like this, right? We've seen tons of fighters on the way up, look great, and then there's just a crash, right? They just run into the wrong guy on the wrong night, and it's really hard to recover from that. And John's right. Theoretically, they could have Joshua maybe have a strategy come out like gun swinging and blazing to try to score a highlight reel knockout. The damage there is, what if Joshua doesn't get it? What does that do to his mental strength over the course of a 12-round fight if he tries to empty the kitchen sink in the first 3 rounds and isn't able to get his man out of there? Because that's what happened in the first fight, right? He thought, it's a late replacement. He had him hurt, and he could finish it, and it didn't work. So there's a lot of intangibles here, but all the pressure's on Joshua. I don't think there's any debate there. So I'm going to pick Ruiz, and I'm going to pick Ruiz by decision, actually, just because I think he has a better skill set. And there's one thing about Ruiz, despite his morbid obesity, he paces himself incredibly well, right? You're looking at the 7th round with Joshua and Ruiz. Who looked more tired, right? To me, Joshua looked gassed. Ruiz didn't look tired. Yeah. Right? Ruiz looked like he's used to carrying around this weight. He's used to picking his spots, and that's what skill is not just quickness and flicking out a jab. It's controlling the fight. It's ring generalship, and I think he is a better ring generalship. So I think he'll win a close decision. I hope he's not relying on a decision, just because I think the hope is still for Joshua to win for bigger fights. But Ruiz is the most intriguing option here. I think he has a better skill, and I think the better skilled guy should win, because as great as Joshua's power is, he doesn't have that Wilder knockout power, right? He has crazy knockout power, and he's probably more skilled than Wilder too, but he doesn't have that, escape route knockout power, and I think that's going to be the big difference here. So I'm going to pick Ruiz by close decision.
Yeah, plus Ruiz walked through Joshua's. He didn't walk through it, but he got up from Joshua's best shot. There's Joshua just has given me a vibe from the very beginning that he might not be as mentally tough as a lot of fighters. He might be a little bit of an orchid. And John, there's been some lively debate over the past 5 months over whether Anthony Joshua quit in that first fight. When you watch that replay, Joshua's in the corner, and the announcers are saying, "Man, Joshua looks so tired right now," and the referee's looking in his eyes, and they're conversing back and forth, and then the referee stops the fight. Where do you come down on that one? Do you think Joshua was mentally broken in the 7th round, and how does he come back from that one?
I've heard that, and I've watched it a number of times. I don't think he quit. I don't. I really don't. I think he was in a world of hurt. He was in a place he's never been as a pro. He didn't respond as the way the referee wanted. He seemed to know where he was in a way, but he wasn't emphatic about it. So I think that's why the doubt, like, well, God, he doesn't even want to fight anymore. And your point is a good one, and that's what I said earlier, was that I would have taken another fight just because I would have been before the Ruiz rematch, just because of his mental makeup. He didn't seem very, what bothered me about it, Dennis, and Riz, he didn't seem very distressed about losing. Now, possibly that was being the fact that he's British, and maybe he's being a really good sport, I don't know, which is very admirable, but he almost seemed relieved in a way, this is the way I took it, which was kind of like, what? How can you be relieved? And that plays into your point again about all the pressure and what Riz said about all the pressure being on him. Yeah. And he's locked himself away, I guess, for this camp, and he's talking about weight. The rumors are he'll be a little lighter so that he's not so robotic in there, so he can move a little bit more. And Ruiz is going to be a little bit lighter, which, of course, is another debatable point about Mike Tyson came out and said, no, Ruiz shouldn't lose weight. He should fight at the weight because he fights really well as a big fat guy, and he does.
Roach said that too, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that Joshua was over that loss. I don't. He could say he is. I saw a video on our sister site that he was drawing a picture of Ruiz, and I was like, what is that all about? You know, like a parody cartoon, and is he trying to convince himself Ruiz is a joke? And a lot of the conversations I had with Andre Ward, I used to always ask him, what was your opinion about guys that are always talking about how they're going to win, and they're bombastic about it, loud, and I asked him, who are they trying to convince, themselves or you? And he didn't even hesitate. He said themselves. And I tend to agree with that. I tend, and the thing is it's so hard. God, it makes me mad when Travis isn't with us, because the mentality of a fighter, since boxing is such an individual sport, and you got everybody in your ear telling you that you can win and you can do it. But if you've got doubts, it's like anything. Somebody can tell you something 100 times, but if you don't believe it, you might say to them, yeah, I know I'm going to take him out in the second round. But if you don't really believe it, and that was a good point that Riz made, that if Joshua throws a kitchen sink at Ruiz in the first, which I don't think he's going to do, I think he's going to box. But if he does, and Ruiz takes it, what happens? So the guy that's working, I can't remember his name, but Joshua's trainer is an old pro, and he's known him since he was a teenager. I think if anybody knows him really well, it's him. And whether he can rise to the occasion and do what he's got to do to win, because I agree with Riz too. Ruiz has got a better skill set. He's a really good counterpuncher. I think he's more of a natural fighter than Joshua is. Joshua is more of a learned fighter with some ability, obviously. So he's got a big hill to climb. And recovering from what happened to him, very difficult. And where he is mentally, again, I'll say I don't think he quit in the first fight. I just think his reaction was strange, though. I don't think it was a guy who was quitting. I think it was a guy that was just unsure of what to do, in a sense. And there's that mental thing again. So, you know, remember that old cliche where you want to take a guy to deep waters. I mean, he got taken to the deep waters and he drowned him. Ruiz drowned him. And I would think that it's possible that this could end up helping him, because now he's been there. But see, my feeling is that, again, that Joshua is not a natural. Because some guys are just, it's hard to explain. They're just naturals when it comes to difficult situations. They seem to respond in the right way. I was watching a fight yesterday where a guy was cut under both eyes, and he just didn't let it bother him. His eyes were swelled. It was a super middleweight fight, and you could tell he was aware of it, but he just fought through it. Some guys can do that. Other guys can't. It's possible that with all the fights that Joshua had before, I mean, the only problem he really had was with Klitschko, and he did get up and win. So I give him that. So, no, I don't think he quit. I just think he was shocked, surprised, maybe underrated Ruiz. Actually, I think not maybe. I think he definitely underrated him. I think if he's going to win this Saturday, he has to be at his best point of what he is. He better be, or he's going to lose again. That's why it's such a feeling call on whether he wins. If he's not, yeah, Ruiz will get him again. But I kind of think he will be. But man, I don't know. But mentally, I think it was wise, Dennis, to take him away from all the media and everything and keep him locked away and let him just work. I like that. I think, okay, hell, there's a ton of pressure on him. There would have been anyway. But locking him away, that's old school. Locking him away, working on his technique, talking about it, maybe watching the first fight over and over again, coming up with a really solid game plan. I think it was a smart move on Team Joshua, and they came up with what they think is their best way to win, and for him. It wouldn't work for everybody, but for him. So whether he does or not, like we said, we'll see. But where he is mentally, that's a really good question, Dennis.
Yeah, and Joshua also has always had trouble going the distance. He's famous for fading late, so you got to wonder where he is in his mind that way. If he can't finish, if he's not convinced he can finish Ruiz early, he's probably going to be tentative. Man, this is another one of these situations where I'm thinking about betting on the underdog in this one.
Not a bad bet. Not a bad bet.
Yeah, well, and I'll probably keep the money in my pocket and be sorry about it. So,
you're like
hey, a couple of really interesting fights yesterday, Saturday. Oscar Valdez fought a last-minute replacement, literally last-minute replacement. Adam Lopez, who was 13-2. Lopez took this fight at the weigh-in where Andres Gutierrez had showed up 11 pounds too heavy, which, I can't even remember when I've heard that before. But he agreed to move up from his own weight class, which is 126 pounds, to fight Valdez at 130. He got TKO'd in the 7th round, but he knocked Valdez down in the 2nd round and was pretty much even on the scorecards, I think, when Valdez got that TKO. A lot of people really thought the fight was stopped too soon. Riz, first, was the fight stopped too soon, first of all? And secondly, how impressed are you with this guy who fought out Oscar Valdez yesterday?
It's not the worst stoppage I've seen, but you can understand. I mean, I think Andre Ward made a good point. With all that's happened with Oscar's health and all that, especially lately, can you really blame a ref for stopping him maybe a little too early? I can see why he stopped it that early. The punch that landed definitely bobbed his head back. So again, I get it. But knowing how the fight was going and how much time was left in the round, all 4 minutes or whatever it was, 4 seconds, why not just let the fight continue? That's kind of my view, especially because he made himself into potentially pulling off an upset. As far as Valdez, there's nothing I see from him that I think is special. And unfortunately, that sounds pretty blunt, but there's nothing from him that I see that like, wow, this guy's going to be the next great champ. I don't see anything like that there. And especially when you see the other fighters that are in and around his division, I don't think anyone's thinking that, wow, he could, he's going to be the lineal champ of his division. I don't think anyone's really thinking like that. I mean, he's number one by the WBC and the WBO. I don't think he has any chance against Miguel Verkel, and I don't think he's going to beat a guy like Jamal Herring either. Herring's a guy who's been around for a while. He's not a young kid by any means. He has 2 losses, so theoretically, I think that could be the easiest avenue for Valdez. But when I look at Valdez, I see a guy who's just a very stereotypically Mexican style fighter, right? Come forward, throw everything but the kitchen sink at you, speed, power, that's all there, good body shot, but just horrific defense. I mean, a last-minute replacement should be able to land those kind of shots on a fighter, right? Not on a guy who's like a Tyler. That shouldn't happen. I wouldn't be surprised to see one of these guys, like, it's working well for him now, almost like an Alfredo Angulo. You guys remember, but it was a while ago. Alfredo Angulo was undefeated at one point, right? And he was, he beat some decent guys, but clearly there was a lot of holes in his game, despite his power and everything else. And that's what you're seeing over here, right? It's just Valdez might be undefeated for now, but, I mean, he's not – I don't think he's a great champ at all. And we saw elements of it last night, right? Soon enough, he's going to lose. He's 28, so you're not going to teach him anything new at this point. But again, he hasn't – I don't think there's ever a fight where you can point out and be like, wow, he wowed me there, right? His most notable win was Scott Quigg, who came in, super overweight. And, let's say Scott Quigg hasn't looked great himself, really, since losing to Carl Frampton. So there's nothing about Valdez that screams out to me that, he has the makings of being one of the top champs. If you look at how busy that division is, with guys like Frampton, Santa Cruz, and Davis, I don't think he beats any of those guys. I'm wondering if they decide to put him in with Carl Frampton, though. Frampton was on the undercard. I can definitely see that fight potentially happening. And I think for Frampton, I think it's a great fight because Frampton, you saw he took a young prospect yesterday, and I think he's going to be more than willing to do the same. Frampton's kind of crossed into a veteran status in some ways, where you might put in a young and up-and-comer in front of them, but nowhere are they near as seasoned as professional as Frampton. Frampton's a pro. And I think it would be interesting to see if they put Valdez in with him, but I think that's a great fight for Frampton because that's a guy who deserves a decent payday, and I think that's a very, very winnable fight for the Jackal.
The other big fight yesterday that was a real surprise. There was a pretty big upset when Zolani Tete, the WBO bantamweight champ, was TKO'd in the third round by Riel Casimero. Tete's a guy who has been calling out Naoya Inoue and Guillermo Rigondeaux, and probably would have been favored to beat Donaire if he hadn't been injured before their WBSS semifinal. He was a lot taller and longer than Casimero. He's a southpaw. He's quick. He hadn't lost since September 2012, 12-fight win streak. And it was a weird KO, John. Tete got hit right in the temple and then got turned around a little bit and got hit in the exact same spot again. And after that, his equilibrium seemed to be gone, which, that finishes a fighter. Casimero's at 30, he's now a three-division world champion, and he wants Inoue, the monster. What did you think about that upset? And do you think this guy has any prayer against the monster?
Oh, I was stunned. And it was kind of funny because the feed was from ESPN Plus was the English announcers, and Tete has made a home in England, and they are what you would not call very impartial. Neither are the guys on DAZN, something where if it's their main guy, it's pretty obvious. HBO used to do that too. Used to drive me crazy. It was pretty obvious who they tended to be leaning towards, and they were going on and on about Tete, and he was boxing well. I mean, he went in the first two rounds. He won the first two rounds. He didn't dominate, but he won them. And it looked after two rounds that it was going to be probably a workmanlike decision because Casimero being 5'4" and Tete being 5'9", he was and giving up almost 10 inches in reach. Also, was really having a hard time getting close, and he had to try to get under the southpaw's jab, and it was tough. But he was fighting for a lot. That was a good story. Came in, he's promoted and handled by Manny Pacquiao, and he wanted to bring another title back to the Philippines. So he was really motivated. But the knockout was, as we were talking off air, Dennis, was similar in a sense to the Wilder knockout, and it was just one punch really that stopped Tete in his tracks, bent him over at the waist, and as you said, the second one hit him in the same spot, both times on the angle, on the temple, and he went down, and he got up, like he'd had about 8 martinis. He had no legs, and he was wobbling all over the place. He fell into the ropes the second time without even really being punched. And Casimero won. It was a great underdog story in the sense, a shocking one, but kind of a feel good one for me. I kind of thought, God, he's got all he had really. Well, See, what was surprising a little bit was I read some people were saying it was a surprise, but not really in the sense because Casimero's got some power. He's got some pop. He's got 20 knockouts. So it's not like he can't punch, and he's more of a brawler. So he knew that this was his best chance was to get in there and land, and he did it. Not a lot of guys can do that. They know they got to do it, but that doesn't mean they can do it. And he just was fortunate or whatever, caught him perfectly on the temple, and good night, Irene. That was it. So, yeah, I was very surprised. But that's boxing. Boxing has that tendency to do that for anybody who loves the sport like we do. And I thought, wow, because Tete, you could see him in his corner. He was standing there like, what happened? I was winning, and his corner was in disbelief too. So Casimero's going to probably get a big parade or something and be met by Manny Pacquiao now. And it's like I said, it's still a good story, but yeah, I don't think anybody really saw that one coming, Dennis. Maybe Casimero's corner, but they were being hopeful. But that one came out of the blue, and like I said, that's what makes boxing so good. And you can't blink because something like that happens, and all the plans go up in smoke. Now, him against Inoue, Denier did a phenomenal job in a way. He did some things that nobody had ever done. He took him deep. He cut him. He broke his eye lobe, I guess, or something, and he caused a lot of damage. I don't think Casimero can do that against Inoue. I don't see it. Inoue would probably just box him and then bomb him with some hooks, and he's not the hardest guy in the world to hit. So I think his chances aren't good. I mean, why he wants to fight, because he knows that that's where he'll make the most money is against Inoue. But I just see Inoue kind of blasting him out of there 5 or 6 rounds. But he'll give it everything he's got because he's loaded with guts, and that's what makes boxing so phenomenal.
Hey, Riz, what's going to happen Saturday when Jermall Charlo fights Dennis Hogan? Hogan's an Australian. He's 28-2 with 1 draw, only 7 knockouts, and he's getting this shot because he lost a majority decision to Jaime Munguia, who's a tough dude, back in April. Is he a live opponent for Charlo, who's 29-0 with 21 knockouts?
Very. So the only thing you be careful of is how is Hogan going to handle the weight change. And I think that he fought Munguia, who probably comes in at like 175 pounds anyways, right? So maybe it might not make that much of a difference. Because against Munguia, to be honest, like for me, that was a robbery, right? That wasn't like, oh, it's close. Like I haven't seen one scorecard that really went for Munguia in that fight, because Hogan looked great. Charlo's more refined than Munguia is. Charlo's still pretty raw, but Munguia is, like sushi. He's raw. He's as raw as you can possibly get. But I think Charlo has been in slightly bigger fights with slightly better opponents, and he has more one-punch finishing power. Munguia is more, he's got a, he has accumulation of punches where he doesn't have one-punch power, but he just managed to throw like power shots constantly. He can throw 100, 200 in a round, right? That's the difference. So I don't think. I think Hogan's going to have moments. I'm going to say the bigger guy is able to get the stoppage, but we've seen holes from both Charlos over the last couple of years. I'm wondering how they're viewing Hogan. I'm wondering if they're I think overlooking him is a horrible idea. So I'm hoping. To be honest, I only have a dog in the race, so I wouldn't say I'm hoping, but they shouldn't be doing that. Hogan has proved in the Munguia fight that he is a quality fighter. And quality fighters like that often get overlooked, but they're the guys who are capable of pulling off the upsets. Just like Casimero last night, he was a pretty live underdog. And if you look at his record and the guys he fought and some of his losses, he was a super live underdog, right? Like he could, he was going to be in that fight. He's a guy who's a titleist. He's a guy who's been up the ranks. He's a trap fight. And I think, just like Joshua-Ruiz, that was a trap fight. We've been a lot. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see another one. Like I said, Hogan's a very, very underdog. Because that Munguia fight was his. So I'm glad more than anything else, we don't look at that as an L, and then the guy, we just don't see him again, right? Because that's happened to a lot of guys in boxing before. and I'm glad that's not happening here. Like, they're almost treating it as if Hogan won the fight because he's getting a meaningful fight out of it. And I think that's the most important thing, right? If there's controversial judges and scorecards, that's going to happen regardless. But at least we should see a guy get some reward out of it for a performance like that. I think that's what we're seeing here. So I don't know what the betting odds are, but I think Hogan has definitely a real chance of an upset. I just think that Charlo is a little more refined, a little more athletic, and all the things Munguia did well, I think Charlo can probably do a little better. If he doesn't knock Hogan out, I think Hogan has a chance. But I feel like it's going to be a hard luck thing where it'll be close, and I think Charlo will get the nod on the scorecards. And maybe a couple people will have Hogan winning, and maybe Charlo's deserving to win. But again, I think it will be close. I don't think Hogan's an easy fight for anyone. I think he's a tough out for most boxers out there.
Last one for you guys, because you got things to do. 3 finalists for Pacquiao: Shawn Porter, Danny Garcia, Mikey Garcia. John, as a boxing fan, who do you want to see him fight?
Well, you said Shawn Porter, Danny Garcia, and what was the third one?
And Mikey.
Oh, Mikey. That's really good. They're all good fights. From what I've been reading, they seem to be leaning towards Danny or Mikey. I think the Mikey fight would be the most intriguing, just because Mikey's got a lot of skills. He didn't look good against Errol Spence Jr., but it's a totally different deal here with Pacquiao, because he'd be the bigger guy this time. So as far as that goes, but we just don't know where Mikey is anymore. I mean, he looks so sluggish against Errol Spence. I just don't know. The Danny Garcia fight, again, we don't know what Danny shows up. Does the Danny show up that was so aggressive against Granados and threw more punches finally, something people have been asking for years, and won very convincingly? Shawn Porter, I don't think Shawn Porter is the fight that Manny Pacquiao wants, in a sense, because Shawn is a much better Jeff Horn, and we know what Jeff Horn did to Manny, and you know that Shawn will be coming out there very physical and pushing and shoving, and I mean, they're all three are really good fights, but I'm not going to go by what I think would be the best fight, but what to me would be the most intriguing fight would be Manny and Mikey Garcia. That's a lot of skill. I did read somewhere, too, that Manny was interested. Now he's interested, according to somebody that works for him, fighting Errol Spence, if Errol Spence is okay. I mean, we don't know. Remember, we've been hearing all kinds of rumors that he's not in nearly good a shape as we thought. So, but if he is, now Manny wants to fight him. Whether we believe that or not is whatever. But, I think being put on the spot, I think that because that would be a fun one, again, as far as skills go, the 41-year-old Manny Pacquiao and the former super talented, we're not so sure anymore, Mikey Garcia. It might not be the most exciting fight, might be more technical, but a lot of skills and a lot of intrigue. And Shawn Porter, again, like I said, I don't think I take that fight if I'm the team, but that one might be more exciting just because the way Shawn is. Shawn doesn't fight boring fights, sometimes as far as grabbing and all that, but he's all action, he's all guts, he's all determination. So they're all good. I mean, really, you could make an argument for all of them, but if it was me, I would take Manny against Mikey Garcia.
Riz, Pacquiao is a bad idea, or Errol Spence is a bad idea for Pacquiao. Assuming he's healthy, isn't he?
To be honest, it seems like all it took was a tragic car accident for them to consider Errol Spence. They didn't mention him at all 3 months ago, right?
Yeah.
And I think here's the question you pretty much have to ask as far as likelihood of who's going to be sharing the ring with him. I think at this stage of his career, Mikey Garcia, Danny Garcia, and Shawn Porter, who's the easiest fight of the three? I'm going to say Danny Garcia, and I think that's where you're going to see. That's probably the fight you're going to see. Like you said, Shawn Porter is the wrong style for Pacquiao at this stage of his career. Mikey Garcia is the most in his prime. Despite the Errol Spence loss, Errol Spence is a big guy. Pacquiao is still probably more similar in terms of size with Mikey. Mikey has that natural talent, and Mikey also, is still quite young, all considering. And that's wrong for a guy like Pacquiao at this stage of his career. Danny Garcia fits the mold. He's not that dangerous. He doesn't throw that many punches. And he's shown progressive decline over the last 3-4 years too, because he doesn't throw punches the way he used to. He shows almost a disinterest in his fighting in his career. Where, this is the guy who used to fight 2-3 times a year against top opponents. And to be honest, I can't really remember the last A-lister he kind of fought. I'm going to say it's Keith Thurman, maybe. Was that his last fight? That's notable, which is 3 years ago now, 3.5 years ago now, something like that. So it's just, that fits the mold of what Pacquiao's fighting nowadays. I mean, he's 40. I don't blame him. At the same time, if you're fighting and you're appearing to be near your best, then fight the best. I just don't, and it's a shame because, again, the guys who are best are not rewarded with this pay, right? What has Danny Garcia done to earn a Pacquiao payday compared to Mikey Garcia and Shawn Porter, who both fought Errol Spence, right? You're fighting Errol Spence, I think you deserve another big fight, especially because, Shawn Porter made that probably fight of the year. And Mikey Garcia has shown at least a risk to go up 2 divisions. What has Danny Garcia done in the last 4 years to warrant a fight like this? To me, it's 0, nothing. And I think this is this would be the third Pacquiao opponent, or even 4th in a row, who is undeserving of a big fight. Broner was up there, and Tise and Keith Thurman. All 3 of those guys really haven't done anything in the last couple of years to deserve a Pacquiao payday. So it's kind of a shame that the B-plus guys are getting more money and more attention than the guys who are busting their ass and making and taking risks like Porter and like Mikey Garcia. I mean, put it this way: if you're fighting Errol Spence, you're going to go through hell, right? We already know that. With his skill level and his and you're definitely risking a loss. Both guys are going in as underdogs. Pacquiao against all those guys was heavy favorites, and Danny Garcia hasn't fought a fight in a really long time where he wasn't a heavy favorite. So I don't like that setup, and that's why. I mean, but that being said, I'd be shocked if we don't see it being Pacquiao and Danny Garcia. I think Pacquiao probably wants to fight Errol Spence. I don't think Pacquiao is a guy who, fighter, right? But I think, these guys, they're thinking longevity too, and Pacquiao's looking at an Errol Spence fight and thinking that makes $20 million, or I can fight Danny Garcia and make 15, which is a much easier fight, and then I can do that 2 more times this year, right? So I think that's likely the fight we're going to see, and I'd be shocked if it's anything else.
There's your 1-2 punch combination from Rizwaan Zahid and John J. Raspanti. Travis couldn't be with us this week. Great stuff, as always, guys. Thank you so much. Paul McLaughlin, the inimitable Brit, is up next with, among other things, Tyson Fury's opinion about who's going to win that Ruiz-Joshua rematch. And then we will go deep in the heart of Texas to talk to a guy who is all Texan, the Mad Dog, former WBA super lightweight champion Gene Hatcher. This is a fun interview, so stick with us for that. You're going to really enjoy this.
You're listening to the Ringside Boxing Show, the hottest, sweatiest show on West Coast radio.
This is tremendous, Don, just tremendous. The atmosphere heavy, uncertain, overtones of ugliness. A reminder in a way of how it was in March of 1964 at Miami Beach, when Clay met Liston for the first time and nobody was certain how it would turn out. The crowd is tense. They've been here since 10 this morning.
Hi there, it's Paul McLaughlin with your weekly roundup of everything going on in the UK boxing scene at the moment. Well, firstly, Carl Frampton said he had twice refractured his hand in camp before his unanimous points win over Tyler McCreary in Las Vegas last night. Fighting for the first time in a year, Northern Ireland's Frampton inflicted a first defeat on an unbeaten American, with all 3 judges marking it 100-88 in the featherweight bout. Frampton, who's 32, had first fractured his hand in a freak accident in August and said there was absolutely no way he wasn't fighting in this match. The former 2-division world champion twice knocked down McCreary, first in the 6th round with a body shot before felling him with a pair of left hooks in the 9th. And Frampton has now targeted a super featherweight world title fight against WBO junior lightweight champion Jamel Herring. Here's what he had to say after the fight.
I was very happy. That was the plan from the start, to target the body. Taylor's pretty tall and we seen that he left gaps. My hand wasn't great coming into the camp as well, so it's always a bit softer hitting the body than a head. I feel like I hurt it again in the 2nd round, so That's why I was wasn't the most exciting fight in the world, but I just cruised to a point when I just wanted to be safe with my hands. The first time I've met Jamel, my impression of him before I met him was he's a nice guy, and he's lived up to the impression I had of him. So I know he's a champ. I just want to fight for a world title next. I want to be involved in big fights, and I would love the opportunity to fight Jamel. And I'm not the champion here. He's the champion. If it happens in Belfast, happy days. If it doesn't, if I have to go to New York, I'm keen for that.
Elsewhere, Joe Cordina outpointed Enrico Tinoco in Monaco to land the vacant WBA Continental Super Featherweight title. Two of the ringside judges in Monaco scored the bout 98-92 in Cordina's favour, with the third judge scoring it 96-94. Also in favour of the Welshman. British and Commonwealth champion Cordina dropped down to super feather to take on the battle-hardened Mexican Tinoco, who stunned Britain's Jordan Gill in Nottingham earlier this year, and a cracking fight it was then. Elsewhere, Dillian Whyte has vowed to deliver maximum violence against Mariusz Vash and admits his top priority remains a WBC title fight against Deontay Wilder. The British heavyweight has been added to the Andy Ruiz Jr. Anthony Joshua rematch bill next week and intends to end the year with a destructive victory over Vash in Saudi Arabia. A former world title challenger, the Pole has shown his toughness while taking Vladimir Klitschko and Alexander Povetkin into the later rounds, but Whyte believes his aggressive style will shatter Vash's resistance. We also asked him about Deontay Wilder's performance last week against Luis Ortiz.
I don't like Deontay Wilder anyway, so I'm probably the wrong person to ask to give him any credit, to be honest, because he sucks. You know, he's been keeping me waiting for forever, for years on top of years now. But listen, he done his thing. You know, he knocked out a 50-year-old man. What can you say about it? You know, you can't jump and scream about it. Everyone knows he's got knockout power, but what was interesting for me is the way Luis Ortiz controlled the whole of the early rounds and was up on the scorecards, and then when the scorecards revealed, they had Luis Ortiz down. That's what was more shocking to me than the knockout. I don't know what fight they was watching. He fought 41 tomato cans and knocked them all out. So if I fought the same people he fought, I'd probably have a 100% knockout ratio as well. You know what I mean? He's fought 2 top 10 in a million years. You know what I mean? He ain't fought no top contenders. Everyone's Luis Ortiz this, that. Luis Ortiz's best win is Malik Scott and Brian Jennings, 1,000 years ago when he was in his 20s.
And speaking of the Joshua rematch, we've got the views of none other than Tyson Fury on next week's mammoth fight. Here's what he had to say.
I see it going pretty much similar to the first fight. Now, I know that they've both lost some weight and whatever, they've had more time to prepare and they've changed a few things in the training teams and camps and all that. But Mike Tyson said it, and it's very true. Everyone's got a great game plan until they get punched in the face. And it's so true. You can be working on something for ages, and then you're working it, and you get tagged. And that's it. You go back to how you once was, and you want to fight. And that's exactly what's happening. What my opinion of that fight is, he beat him once and knocked him out, so he's got a mental edge going into the rematch. For whatever excuse they made, or whatever the problem was in camp or in the changing rooms or whatever, you're going into that mentally beaten already. I believe boxing is 95% in the mind anyway, and 5% fitness and nutrition and all that stuff. So yeah, I think when you've already been beat by someone, Joshua wasn't winning that fight. And I think personally, he may be the bogeyman for him, who knows?
Well, I cannot wait for that next week. And until then, guys, gloves up and protect yourselves at all times. Back to you in the studio.
Hey, thank you, Paul McLaughlin. Excellent stuff, as always, my friend. Our main event is up next, so don't go away. This is the Ringside Boxing Show. I'm Dennis Taylor, co-author of the Amazon bestseller Intimate Warfare, the true story of the Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward boxing trilogy. You know, writing this book was a labor of love for John J. Raspanti and myself. We enjoyed every minute of the process and considered it a privilege to tell the tale of one of the most electrifying boxing trilogies in the history of this sport. Intimate Warfare traces the collision course of Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward from their earliest days through their 3 epic fights, as well as the aftermath of this great rivalry, which culminated in one of the greatest friendships in boxing. Intimate Warfare has received a 4.5-star rating from readers,
and was endorsed by Hall of Famers Harold Letterman and Joe Cortez and two-time Trainer of the Year Virgil Hunter. Our foreword was written by Ray Boom Boom Mancini, another one of the greatest blood and guts fighters of our time. Get your copy today at Amazon.com.
Oh boy, is this great! Hi, this is Donald Curry, the Hall of Famer. You're listening to the Ringside Boxing Show.
Welcome back to the Ringside Boxing Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm Dennis Taylor with John J. Raspanti, and today's featured guest is a fighter who upset Johnny Bump City Bumpus to win the WBA Super Lightweight crown in 1984. Gene Mad Dog Hatcher successfully defended the title 6 months later against Ubaldo Sacco and had a 14-year, 39-bout career that included fights with Frankie Warren, Lloyd Hunnigan, Superman Davis, Alfredo Escalera, Joe Manley, Tyrone Crawley, quite a few others. Gene, welcome to the Ringside Boxing Show. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. How are you, sir?
Well, we're doing good here in Texas. Everything's fine here. Just fat and sassy from all the eating we did yesterday.
Good deal.
No, go ahead.
So Gene, here's a fun fact that a lot of boxing fans might not know about you. Your son, Justin, was a minor league baseball player for 5 seasons with the Rangers and Padres organization, and he spent more than a decade as San Diego's bullpen catcher, and now, if I'm not mistaken, he's with the Los Angeles Angels. Is that right?
Yes, he ended up with the Angels last year, and I'm not sure about his return this year. He's, I think, a free agent right now. So we're looking maybe the Texas Rangers again, I'm hoping.
Well, man, that must have been a pretty sweet deal over the years for Dad, huh? Did you wrangle some free tickets out of him every so often?
Oh, yeah. That always comes along with the job that he got. He always got us some tickets. We'd sometimes fly back to San Diego, and then sometimes, when he was with the Angels, we got to see him at the Rangers field some. We got to see him really more when he was with the Angels because of the league that he was in.
Gene, I heard Justin got in the ring as a kid exactly one time for one fight, and then decided right away that baseball was the way to go. True story?
Exactly, yes, sir. Exactly one fight. He had always been to the gym with me and had always sparred and stuff. Everybody knew who Justin Hatcher was. So he had a little bit of clout built with a lot of the little boys down there so that they respected him. But when he stepped in the ring in the Golden Gloves, in the Fort Worth Golden Gloves, this boy didn't know who he was, didn't care who he was, went out there, went to fighting, 90-0, and it was a close fight, but Justin lost the decision. And after the fight, he told his daddy and mama, I think I want to play baseball, Dad, or football. And his mama was so happy. So that was the beginning and end of a short boxing career for my son, but he did very well in baseball. We're very proud of him.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, Gene, what was that like to watch him play baseball? I mean, obviously he made it to the major leagues. He's pretty damn good, right? It must have been great to watch him.
Well, I really believe that he was a lot better than he got credit for. You know, he went ahead and took the job as a bullpen catcher after his third or fourth year of in the double A and triple A. And then he got this opportunity with the Padres to go ahead and take this bullpen job. And it wasn't my decision nor his mother's, but I believe he could have hung in there another year or two and probably landed a starting catching position somewhere. But that's needless to say. There right now, you know, he's still in the baseball. He's just not having to take the hits, you know, like you're going to take as a catcher does. You know, it's not quite as rough on him. So, you know, I figured the good Lord knew what he's doing, so he's got him in the position that he needed to be in.
I see.
Yes,
now you started boxing in the Fort Worth area at the age of 10 after your dad took you to watch the Golden Gloves tournament. Why do you think the sport appealed to you at a young age?
I imagine it's probably because of the what is it, the Romans that's in each one of us. We all have a little bit of that fight in us, and when we see a good boxing match, the crowd starts going nuts, and I think it's just a part of the human being, you know, the young man feeling that that's what you want to do. You know, that's what I wanted to do, is be tough and be able to have that excitement. You know, I think that's the only way I can explain it. You know, because in the boxing business, you don't know nothing about it until you get in the midst of it. And then after I started it, I really liked it then because I started winning fights, and then the camaraderie and all the attention goes along with it. So that helps keep you in, you know, what do you call it? Keeps you motivated to keep going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, it was estimated that you had like somewhere between 250 to 350 amateur fights. Man, that's a lot. What do you remember fighting as a kid? Anybody who you fought as a kid became very well known later?
As an amateur?
Yeah.
Well, I guess Fred Tuttle was the number one contender when I went to the National Golden Gloves. And that was in, I think that was in Hawaii. Yeah, that was in Hawaii. And my very first fight, they matched me against Fred Tuttle. And I didn't know who Fred Tuttle was, and I really didn't even care who Fred Tuttle was. They had told me who I was fighting, so I went out there and fought. Well, after the fight, I won the decision, and then they told me who Fred Tuttle was. And he was rated number one welterweight at that time in the United States. Well, after that, I thought, well, I can whoop anybody now, but you had to fight twice a night. Twice a night at the Nationals then. So I fought the second fight. I can't even remember who the name of the second guy was. It was needless to say. Anyway, I went out there and lost a decision to him. And I think a lot of it had to do with fighting so soon after the first fight. But another part of it was my confidence. I was kind of snooting around, walking around like I had already beat the number one guy. Thought I could just whoop anybody. Well, I got to learn how your confidence will lie to you. That's for sure.
What was it like Gene? What was it like for a small town Texas kid to see Hawaii?
Oh, I guess that was probably one of the biggest things that had happened to me, and ever. My aunt and uncle and my mom and dad and brother and sister, we all got to go to Hawaii for that. And it was an exciting trip, to run on the beaches of Honolulu, Hawaii, and never have experienced anything like that before. Yeah, it was pretty nice.
Wow.
Yeah, man,
it was
I
a
bet.
blessing, I would say. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I read or I heard someplace that when you were an amateur fighter, you really didn't have a lot of interest in turning pro. Is that true?
No. Yes, that was true. We always said we'd never turn professional during the amateurs, and that was just both part my dad and my mom's ideal of boxing. Let's just don't ever think about going pro. But all that changed after reaching the places that I got to reach with the amateurs, it changed our thinking, because then they started offering me money to sign, for the as a professional, to sign a contract for a manager contract. And when that started coming around, I was 17, 18 years old, knowing that I'm going to have to work to make a living, and why not do it this way? Jumped in and signed that contract right off the bat with David Gorman, and it started there, and it's where it ended too. I was with Gorman all the way until him and Papa Joe.
Gene, you trained in a gym in Fort Worth that produced Rockin' Robin Blake, who fought for the lightweight title, Stevie Cruz, who won a featherweight crown from Barry McGuigan, Donald and Bruce Curry, who both world champions, Troy Dorsey, who won the IBF and IBO featherweight belts. What was that like? What was that place like?
Man, it was an amazing place to really work out. We had so much camaraderie there as far as the fans always stopping in, and it really does help you to have people around. You know, it's amazing what it does to a fighter. I've got a little gym right now that I'm working people at in, and when new people come in just to watch, it motivates the individual who is working out to a higher degree of conditioning. And it does the same thing in a boxing gym when you get different people coming in through the doors. It does help the fighters train a little bit harder. And that's things that was so good about the Gorman Super Pros, that we had that camaraderie around the gym continually, and people wanting to be part or just at least watch, and it always, motivated us fighters to help, work harder. I think that helped, in the outcome of all the fights. And it does that same thing in Las Vegas, with the gyms there, and in New York City they got all kinds of camaraderie and press and stuff, and that helps.
Yeah. Gene, did you ever spar? Did you ever spar with any of those guys? I was thinking about maybe Robin Blake. You might have sparred with him, Rockin' Robin, or Donald Curry, or did you spar?
Yeah,
you did. How'd that go?
Rockin' Robin was my main sparring partner for the Bumpus fight. He was left-handed southpaw. That's right. That's right. I think Robin was probably 5'11". He might not have been quite as tall as Johnny, but he was my main sparring partner. He took me all the way to Buffalo when our final sparring matches was in Buffalo, and he was perfect for the fight because Robin had that kind of style that Johnny Bumpus had. He had a real good boxing ability, move right, left, try to confuse you, and that's what Bumpus was good about. That was his number one thing, his boxing ability. But Robin played a big part in that. That's for sure.
That's really good. Okay, tell me about Popeye and our fans. How did he help you get the nickname of Mad Dog? Who was he?
Popeye?
Yeah.
Yep. That was my pit bulldog. I told my uncle. Well, I was talking to my son the other day. I said, and I told my cousin too, that I said I started out a pit bull man. Now I'm down to a Chihuahua man. I got 2 Chihuahuas. I got 2 Chihuahuas in here that think they're bad to the bone, and they couldn't eat nothing. I do got a sweet French bulldog that is a nice dog. He's pretty much of a manly dog. But my pit bulldog, back when I guess I got that pit bulldog when I was probably 17 or 18, and I had that dog for about 10 years, and he was a white pit bulldog. He was a fighting dude. I used to take him to the gym, and he would get hostile when I would get in the ring and spar over in the corner. I would chain him up in the corner, and he would go hostile when I was sparring. So one day somebody called me a mad dog, and it just stuck. And that's kind of the way I worked out anyway. Is that I had to get kind of pissed off before I could really start doing any kind of good work. And it's kind of where my boxing career went too. Is that it took me 3 or 4 rounds to get going, and once I got going, well, then the fight was usually over.
Mm.
But my bulldog is the one that got me the name.
Man, you gotta love dogs. I got 2 dogs too, and they would not like seeing me in a fight, man. They would help.
No. Oh, shit, yeah, they do. I mean, they're man's best friend. They're just as close. Yeah, they are. They're really close to you. If you raise them, and stay with them and love them, they know everything about you.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're in a fight,
this is the Ringside Boxing Show. We are talking to Gene Hatcher, the Mad Dog, on the Ringside Boxing Show. He's the former WBA super lightweight champion of the world. You said in one interview that your toughest opponents were Alfredo Escalera and Ubaldo Sacco. You were 1-1 against both of those guys, and Bumpus, who you knocked out in 1984 to win your world title. That's interesting to me because you also went on to fight Frankie Warren, Superman Davis, and Lloyd Hunnigan, all when they were undefeated when you faced them. That sounds like a tough choice for you to make when somebody asks you to pick your best opponent. Is it?
Well, yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I know how the boxing business goes a little bit. After you've won a world title, when you're kind of going down the hill from championship material, you are used for up and coming fighters, and that's kind of a norm, and that's the reason I had to match up with all these people, and I think that Gorman, as wise as he was, could have made some better choices, and I should have been a little bit smarter in my decisions. But yes, that's how it works. You're kind of used as a stepping stone when it comes to, when you're going down the ladder. Yeah. And I can understand that to a certain extent, except that it kind of hurts.
Yeah,
to be honest,
sure.
Superman Davis was a hard hitting dude.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah.
And Frankie Warren was tough, but I really thought I beat Frankie Warren, but that decision didn't go that way. So.
Yeah.
He was shorter than you, right?
Oh man, that guy didn't even stand up to my elbows almost. I mean, that was the hardest guy to get underneath, because I was more of one of those fighters that stayed inside. But shit, that guy was up underneath my elbows and working me everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was tough.
Yeah, he was something.
Yeah, he was.
And, you talked a little bit about Johnny Bumpus, his style. So many people, I think Johnny Bumpus is unappreciated, but you fought him in Buffalo, New York for your world title. You were an underdog going in, and he's so slick. He's so quick. He moves so well. You're behind on all 3 scorecards going into round 11. What do you remember about that night and that fight?
Well, I know that in the 10th round, we got in a really good exchange, really tough exchange, and he switched in the 10th round. Instead of trying to box me, he started fighting me. And when he started fighting me is when things changed. And then in the 11th round, he hit me low right before I knocked him out. He hit me right in the cup, and that did it. I mean, it just brought the Mad Dog completely to the tilt of my thinking, and within 10 seconds, I had him on the mat because the referee did not see the left hand that he hit me with. I just stepped back a couple steps and blocked a couple of his punches while he was coming after me. But it was right after he had hit me right in the cup, right on the right in the nuts, bad. And I just suffered through that, but then said, "You're going down, sucker. I guarantee I'm fixing to knock you out." And I did. So he went. He fell flat on his face, man, and it was over. He just couldn't hold his balance, and after that, I heard that Johnny didn't. His equilibrium had been busted. You know, and I've noticed this in a lot of fighters. If they get their equilibrium ever busted from a knockout, usually it's gone from then on out. You know, if you get stopped once, you know, it's going to come again soon if you step back in there with somebody that can punch. Yeah, I've watched it with many fighters, and I've even experienced it myself, you know, because Lord Hunnigan knocked me completely out. I mean, he hit me with a right hook right before out. If I would have hit him with a left hook 2/10 of a second sooner, it would have been Lord Hunnigan on the mat. But his right hook hit me 2/10 of a second before mine did, and it put me completely. I mean, the first thing that I remember is going down the freeway and on the highway, on the Autobahn, going probably about 100 miles an hour, and I looked up and I had a mask on my face, and I looked up and I seen my dad sitting there, my manager sitting there, and this little bitty Toyota bumper truck. It was an ambulance, but it was so small, I could not believe it. And I said, "Oh, we must have got knocked out, didn't we?" And that's what my dad said. "Yep, that's what this means. We're going to the hospital." I said, "Dang, I kicked the back of the window and told the sucker to slow it down. I didn't want to die over here in Spain. We fought over in Marbella, Spain."
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, they got me to the hospital.
You would
check me out.
You and Lloyd Hunnigan set a world record that night.
Yes, sir. I know that. It was a world record. I think
seconds.
somebody broke it.
Yeah, it's been broken since.
It
was the fastest knockout in the title fight.
I lost a lot of sleep over that, too, because that really busted my bubble when I found out that my record had been broke. Dang. I think it was 20 seconds into the first round, or 19.
It was 40.
Maybe
40 seconds.
40 seconds. Yeah, 40 seconds.
40 seconds. Yeah, I looked it up,
really
and I think the new record now is 8 seconds now.
8 seconds now. Man.
Yeah.
That is really fast. And I guess he didn't even get out of the corner before he got hit.
Barely.
Do you know what fight it was?
Let me let John ask you this next question, and I will look it up for you real quick while you're talking about the next question. Okay, hang on.
Okay, great.
So go ahead, John.
Okay.
All right, Gene. Hey, Gene. In your day, you fought 15 rounders. People don't even remember that was the glory days of boxing. How hard did you train to get ready for those 15 to go 15 rounds? It almost seems incredible now, but it was the norm in your day, like I was just saying. Did you? How hard? I mean, how hard did you have to train to go 15 rounds?
Well, I don't think there's really probably no way that you could probably describe the intensity of the conditioning that you have to go through in order to be prepared for 15 rounds, except that I can tell you that we would work out 10 to 15 rounds a day, a night. And in the mornings before workout, Papa Joe would follow us in his truck or his Lincoln, and we would go 7.5 miles running out here on the west side of Fort Worth. And I would usually, if it was for a championship fight, I would usually ride my 10-speed bicycle back after I run out 7.5 miles. And then at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we'd come home and eat breakfast, have a nap, and then about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we'd go back to the gym, and then we'd put in our 10 to 15 rounds of, hand mitts, sparring, jumping rope, all the double M bags and the speed bags. And we always got in 10 to 15 rounds a day, though. So, yes, I can describe it, but you cannot really fathom the intensity of it until you put your butt in it. The heat from it, It is a lot. It is a lot. it's probably the best thing that ever happened for me, except that it, it kind of wears you out after time. It wears you out. That's for sure.
Okay, Gene, I got your answer for you. The new record is 17 seconds. The new record is 17 seconds. It was a guy named Daniel Jimenez who beat a guy named Harold Geyer in a super bantamweight world title fight in 1994. 17 seconds.
Oh, really? Jimenez, huh? All right.
Yeah. Daniel Jimenez, yeah. And he was 30 and 13.
Is it Daniel Jimenez?
Mm-hmm. Yes, Daniel Jimenez.
Okay. All right, and it's probably on YouTube, so I can check it out.
Yeah. I'm sure you can find it.
Yeah, I will. I might have to give him a call and tell him, dig him, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
I didn't like to have my name on the shortest knockout in the history of boxing. It's not the grandest achievement, that's for sure.
Oh,
Lloyd Huntington did hit hard because I never had been knocked off my feet before, and then I seen him knock out Curry, and then he knocked out quite a few people.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he was pretty tough.
Yeah, he did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so y'all,
I was gonna say this. I love this question because people like Dennis and I and other people who write about boxing obviously will never experience this, and usually most fighters have a dream to be a champion, and I love it when it happens. Tell us, if you can, and the best way you can, what that moment was like when you became a world champion.
Well, that's another one of them difficult questions. It's hard to explain, but it's only by the grace of God that any of it ever transpired, because I never dreamed that I would be a professional world champion. Never in my wildest dreams. But as experience and time went along, it just led to bigger fights and bigger fights. And then once it finally did transpire and happen, there's probably many people that have become champions that would agree with me that it's undescribable as far as your notoriety and your rapport that you have with people. It just exceeds so much greater. You can just almost snap your fingers and they say, "What do you want? What do you need?" People are just, it's unreal how the response you get from individuals that you didn't even know before. You get cousins, you get uncles, you get all kinds of friends.
And they all want tickets to the next fight.
Yeah, it's not that I'm downgrading it, but it's something that happens that, it's just part of being a champion. People just like it. And you just gain a whole lot more. You gain a whole lot. I was a smarter guy back then. I was a lot smarter guy, and it's just something that people that never have been there. That I tell you what, if you go to New York City, is that where y'all are calling from?
No, we're near Monterey, California.
Okay. Well, if I go to New York City, when I was fighting back in the day, the people would chant sometimes "Mad Dog" while I'd be running down the road. I could go over to Italy. And people would say "Mad Dog." I go down I run in my own city, and they're trying to run over me almost. Honking their. I mean, people here down here in the South, they don't grasp the reality of the athletes like they do up north, back east. It's a lot different. It's unusual, really.
And that's Justin on your shoulders after the fight, right?
Yes, sir.
That's your son.
That's my son. That was my.
How much of a treasure is that video clip for you to see your little boy at that age on your shoulders on that night?
Yeah, that's pretty much of a moving videotape, that's for sure. I get to see it all the time. Somebody sending it to me or something on Facebook, and I get to watch it again. And my dad used to watch it continually. And yeah, it's a monument for my wife being there, and also my son. My mother was there. My sister was there. They called my sister in the commentating a kiss from the wife when my sister had kissed me, but that wasn't my wife. That was my sister. But my wife was up in the ring when they was announcing me to be champion, and she was kissing me then. And then here 5 minutes later, they called my sister my wife. And I went, whoa, they're making a big mistake here. Al Bernstein, I can't remember if it was Al Bernstein or who it was, made a big mistake.
Yeah, it was.
Didn't help. Yep. Didn't help.
Well, you really did a really good job of describing how you became so much more famous after winning the title. How about you, Gene, after you won the title? How did it change you?
Well, I think this is the part that my testimony has helped a lot of people in the past, is that, deception comes to people that have come to a height that I got to, and then when it's over, it is a very deceiving moment for that individual, and that's what happened to me. And I almost ended up killing myself about 88, about 3 or 4 years after the championship. See, I won the Darrell Anthony championship from him in 87, and then after that, then the Huntington I went down, and then in 88, I had come to a place where I thought that I wasn't loved anymore, didn't nobody cared about me or anything, and I was deceived and almost killed myself. But the good Lord intervened that day upon me and brought my attitude back about winning and losing. And today I can speak to many people about that downset that sometimes we go through, even not just in boxing, but in life, that it knocks you off your feet, and you have to choose above it instead of below. And that's, that's how, I hope that answers your question of how it was after the fight, because, after, when you do fall off a mountain like that, it is hard. It's very difficult. Troy Dorsey can tell you the same thing. Stevie Cruz. I talked to Don Curry not too long ago, and he's doing pretty good. But it's just a hard thing, because at one moment you've got everything at the snap of your fingers, and then bang, and it's gone. You say, whoa, what has happened? I didn't change. I didn't change nothing.
Yeah.
It's just something that you got to learn not to listen to I call it the liar that speaks into your head, that tries to depress people, and it can hurt. There's a lot of suicides every year. It's unreal how many suicides there are. And you think about it, well, they're listening to the wrong thinking, the stinking thinking, A lot of fighters go through that, and they have to,
Gene,
they have to pull themselves out.
Yeah.
When you say you came close, you actually held a 45 to your temple. Is that correct?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Man.
Yes, sir. I have a hunting. I'm a big hunter, and I have a hunting room outside my laundry room, and I've got deer horns and different things in there. I got pictures of my family, and I was out in that room, and I was going to do it. and I stuck the pistol to my forehead, and when I did, I looked up. When I looked up on the shelf was a picture of my wife, son, and daughters on a four-wheeler at the deer lease that I had taken years before. And when I seen that picture of my wife, the thought come to me, it is her birthday today. When that thought come to me, I dropped the gun and laid it just right there on the table or the bar. And I thought, I better do something. I better go wash her car or something. That's what I did, and went frantically out in the front yard to wash her car and knocking skin off my knuckles because of the fight that was going on in my head and my heart. And finally, I just give up and fell on my face in that front yard and said, God, I know that you are real. I know. But I'm about to kill myself, and I need some help. Bang! Once I said I need some help, it was like he lifted me up off the ground and like said, that's all I've been waiting on you to come back to me and ask for some help. And it was like daylight, from dark to daylight. My wife come home, my mom come home. They thought I went nuts because I was a Jesus freak over just in the afternoon because I had talked to my wife earlier in the day on the phone. But that evening, when everybody come home, I had changed attitudes. And from that day forward, I have been faithfully, continually following as close as a person can to the scriptures of God so that I can live that life that He's called me to live. And it's difficult. It is. It's not the easiest. You can't be a sissy and be a Christian. Should be pretty tough. You got to hang in there. You know, hanging in there is not the easiest thing. That when I was a young man, you know, I just switched back and forth. You know, 1 month I'd be a good Christian, next month I'd be a hellraiser. You know, when you finally get to that place of decision, you got to follow through, and that's what I've been doing now since 1988, July 28th, 1988. That was my wife's birthday, and that's how all that happened. And it's a blessing to me, but it's also a remembrance to how deception can really bring you to a place that you want to kill yourself. And I think, how in the world could I ever think about that crap? But it is possible because there is a deceiver out there, and he's called the father of lies, and he is a no good lying son of a biscuit eater. If I can say it nicely.
Okay. Well,
I hope that was nice enough.
Oh, that was great.
That was. You did a good job there. Hey, you how much of a thrill was it for you to successfully defend your world title in Fort Worth, right near your hometown? You won a split decision over Ubaldo Sacco that night. That must have been incredible.
Yes, it was. You know, Ubaldo Sacco was one tough. I mean, he was tough. They said he had a bionic hand because he had metal in his hand. They said, you know, they made a big deal out of that in the press, and so I don't know how much bionic it was or not, but I do know that Ubaldo Sacco could hit hard, and he did cut me up quite a bit. So whether that was from the bionic hand or not, I don't know for sure, because Alfredo Escalera really got my face to being cut. His good elbows and shoulders, and Alfredo Escalera knew how to headbutt, and he knew the tricks of the trade. But Ubaldo Sacco, he was just as tough, and he had good sharp hands. So when he hit the edges of my face, then it sliced it open. But Ubaldo Sarko was a tough hombre. He was.
Yeah.
And how I felt after the decision, I looked in the mirror and I said, "Are you sure we won?" Because my face looked like it had been whooped with a meat cleaver. I mean, my eyes were swollen up. They had taken in swell and tried to push the knots back in your head, because the swelling on your eyebrows, it just pops out, and they take a silver inswell, they call it, and they push it back in your head. Man, I looked rough after the Sarko fight, but it was a tough fight, and I did win that fight. And matter of fact, I would have won the second fight in Italy if they wouldn't have stopped it, but they stopped it because of the bleeding. And I was bleeding bad, though. I was bleeding very bad. One time I looked down at my shoes when I was sitting in the corner, and there was blood and water coming out of my feet, out of my shoes. When I squished them, I said, "Daggone, we're bleeding, ain't we, a little bit now?" He said, "Yeah, we're bleeding a little bit, son. Let's go." So the bell rung, and he'd send me back out.
How bitter was that pill? How long was that flight home after you lost your title there?
That was a tough one. Yeah. Well, we had about 3 days more, and we went over to Rome and different places while we was vacationing, and it was probably the toughest time that I had to make a smile for people. Anyway, I didn't want to smile at nobody because there's nothing like losing a world title. There's nothing that devastating, I guess, except, losing your best friend or something. But when you lose the title, it's hard to smile or have fun. But Mom and Dad and my wife, they wanted me to just forget about it. And I can understand trying to forget about it, but it's just something that you can't forget about. So you have to kind of, make yourself smile at different instances to try to keep yourself going forward. Moving on up. Yeah, it was tough. It was tough.
I'm sure about that. Yeah, Gene, you fought 6 more years after your loss to Superman Davis, and then you hung the gloves up in '95. Was retirement really difficult?
Yeah, I think it was. I think retirement from any kind of professional sports, after you've been in it as a champion or making a living at it, it's difficult to switch over. My son, he's got to go through that one of these days, and he's going to have to switch over from the camaraderie of being in the light of the sports people back down to going to work every day. And I think that is the hardest thing when you have to transition from, working your butt off, kicking yourself every day. I mean, it's not fun just to work that hard and get in shape, but you get used to it, and it's just part of your living. And then when it's gone, it changes everything.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I've had this discussion with a lot of people. People don't realize, like boxers, you're not old when you retire. I mean, you're like 35, 36. That's not old in the real world, right? But as far as boxing, you're considered old, and that's it. You never get to do it again. That has to be really hard.
Yeah. It's a lot different. It's individually the reality of something doesn't hit home until you're really going through it yourself, and it's plain or express anyone to understand it, except that unless you've been through it, and when you have to face the reality of it's over, man, it kind of sets you down. It sets you on your butt for a while, and you think, "Uh-oh, what are we going to do now?"
Yeah,
So,
sure.
Gene, you ever dream about boxing?
Thank God. I did air conditioning work for quite a while, and made a living at that. I got a good wife that makes a good living. I got my daughter makes a good living. She's helping us. I mean, God is taking care of us all the way. That's for sure. What was the question you just asked me?
Do you ever dream about boxing all these years later?
You know what? I don't. I do not dream about boxing. Isn't that the weirdest thing? Yeah, it is. I hardly ever dream myself at all, other than just thinking about different things. But I can't recall dreaming in the last 5-6 years. My wife claims that I dream because I talk in my sleep. She knows I'm dreaming, but I can't tell you what I'm dreaming about. Honey. That's right.
Yeah. Hey, Gene, this gym that you opened called Fitness 13 in Aledo, is that Aledo, Texas?
Fitness 413.
413, right, Fitness 413, I'm sorry, where you basically teach self-defense to the average person, not necessarily boxing. You're still doing that, sounds like that, right? Or is that what you're doing now?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I've got a little gym out here in Aledo, Texas. It's called Fitness 413, and the reason I named it Fitness 413, that's short for Philippians 413, which says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I'm reaching out to the young or the old that want to learn self-defense and also build their confidence up in their daily walk so that they don't have to walk around feeling like, if something did happen, could I handle myself? I think it's a good thing for young men. I've even got some young girls in there sometimes that like to do it a little bit, and I see nothing wrong with that. I really don't really prefer to take a woman to the boxing ring, but if she wants to learn how to use her hands, I would teach her that. But I have adults that love it. You know, some 50-year-old men in there that love it, and they're getting in shape and learning how to throw the hook and the uppercut and the overhand and the triple jab. You know, it's going pretty good, really. It's really a lot different than I ever imagined. I didn't even think it would go, but shoot, it's working out pretty good. I'm fixing to get my back operated on, though, and so I'm going to be having to shut down for a couple months, but I'm going to be right back at it as soon as I get well.
And then coming out of retirement, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Coming out of retirement. Going to make a comeback. My wife said, no, you're not.
No, you're not.
Here's something else that our listeners probably do not know about Gene Mad Dog Hatcher. You were on city council for a while in your old hometown of White Settlement, right?
Yes, sir. I did 6 years on the city council here at White Settlement, and I had enough after 6 years.
You didn't want to run for mayor?
No, they talked to me about running for mayor. I said, no way. You know, you got to have a city council for every city. I'm not bad-mouthing it, but I just know that there's so much that you learn about politics and how mean people can get. It's unreal. It's just unreal how people will do what they got to do in order to get their way. And it's like sometimes it's like a kindergarten class. Somebody wanting their way, and I think this is ridiculous. I'm getting away from this.
I'm sure.
So, you know.
Hey, last one for you. You're a grandfather, right? You're grandpa today.
Papa. Yeah. You got 5 of them? Yeah, we got 2 out of Brandy, 2 out of Justin, and 1 out of Lindsay. So we got.
Knowing how tough boxing is, would you want to see any of those kids box?
Well, to be honest with you, I would not. But I think my little fighter he's 4 years old right now, and he's my youngest grandson. And I honestly believe he is just like his pawpaw. And I've never seen another one of my even children and all the other grandchildren act as though this young man acts. He is tough, and he's got eyebrows just like his pawpaw. He looks at you like he's going to tear your head off, and he's really just like me. I don't tear people or look at people to hurt them. It's just the way my eyebrows present themselves when I'm listening to somebody. But he's got the eyebrows of a mad dog, and so I'm sure that he'll probably try it. Yeah, I hope Papa's still around, and I'm helping.
Nice.
I think he will be. He will be.
I got his ring name for you already. Call him Angry Puppy.
Angry Puppy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I used to have a T-shirt for Justin, my son. We had it on the back of it. It said Mad Pup. I had
Mad Pup.
Mad Mom. I had a Mad Wife. I had a Mad Pawpaw. And we had T-shirts made up that had their names on the back.
That's
and
great.
We had a bulldog on the front that said Mad Dog Hatcher, former WBA champion. It was pretty cool back in the day, I guess.
Yes, it is.
You brought back good memories. I appreciate y'all.
That's great.
Hey, man, it's been a lot of fun. Gene Mad
sure
Dog
has.
Hatcher was the WBA super lightweight champion of the world. He faced several of the very best fighters of his era. Gene, man, it's been a great pleasure talking to you today.
Yeah.
Best wishes to you and your family, and thanks so much for making some time for us today on the Ringside Boxing Show.
All right. I appreciate it, Dennis and John. God bless y'all, and may you have a Merry Christmas.
Same to you, sir.
Same to you. All right, Gene
Thank
Hatcher
you.
on the Ringside Boxing Show. Thank you, Gene. Hey, you
Bye-bye.
like this podcast? Do us a solid. Tell your boxing brethren about the Ringside Boxing Show. Help us grow. Also, if you haven't yet discovered the #1 website in the world for daily boxing news, you got something to do right now. We update ringsideboxingshow.com 365 days a year with the biggest headlines, most interesting stories you're going to find anywhere on the Internet. Check it out now, and you will be amazed, guaranteed. ringsideboxingshow.com. We want to thank our expert analysts, Travis Hartman, Rizwaan Zahid, and John J. Raspanti for their weekly contributions to this show, along with our outstanding British correspondent, Paul McLaughlin, and another huge thanks to today's featured guest, the former WBA super lightweight champion of the world, Gene Mad Dog Hatcher, from White Settlement, Texas. And, of course, we thank you, Ringside Nation, for being a part of our worldwide audience again today. Keep your chin tucked, and we'll talk to you again next week on the Ringside Boxing Show.
All right.
Well, it's a great day for me to whoop somebody's ass. It's a bad day, so you better get off of my back. You might get cold cocked if you cross my path. 'Cause it's a great day for me to whoop somebody's ass.